Hi, my name is Basson Laubscher. I'm Basson Laubscher from Basson Laubscher and the Violent Free Peace. I'm the main songwriter in the band leader. It was kind of my solo project that I started. I was in an Afrikaans band called Zinkblad for a very long time, and the Free Peace kind of grew out of that. But as well as that, I've been a session guitar player for Valiant SWAT for a long time. I play with the Blues Brews, is another band I play with, and I've done various sessions throughout the years for artists such as Gerald Clark and a lot more to mention that I can't remember them all right now, so I'm not going to even try. But yeah, I've done a lot of session stuff, and that's pretty much my bag. I'm a musician in COVID, which is an interesting position to be in the year 2021.
Well, very welcome to the episode of Offstage Podcast. And it's really an honor to have you here because in one of the interviews that I read about you, it mentioned that you were dubbed SA's Rory Gallagher. And how does that make you feel? Because I mean, you started out at the age of 13. And looking back now,
Yes.
did you ever think that you would be dubbed by such a great name?
Not at all. I still don't quite believe it because he's a very big hero of mine and a great inspiration. I mean, I've definitely stolen some things of him, kind of like. I'm a very big fan, as you can hear. I love Rory. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's good. It always feels good to have that recognition. But like I said, he's a big hero of mine. So I think there's a great quote that I once saw where it says, "Always seek what the master sought, never try and walk in their footsteps." And I think that's something I've tried to abide by for a long time. Is that there's always something more to learn, and just because somebody gives you a title doesn't mean you can rest on your laurels. So, and that's the great thing about music. It's always something new to discover. And I mean, you go on YouTube and there's like a 3-year-old kid in Japan or whatever that like blows your mind. And you're like, damn it, I gotta go sit down and practice for another like 20 hours. So no, it's a long answer to a short question. It's a great honor to be mentioned in the same vein as Rory, which is again one of my very big heroes and influences. So it's good, but yeah, I don't quite see it that way. I don't think anybody can ever be Rory. There was only one. Like we only had one Jimmy and one Stevie, one Eddie Van Halen.
Like you just mentioned, that you never stop learning in this industry, and there's always going to be something to be learned. So, my question to you is what is one of the most important things that you have learned about yourself whilst being in the industry?
I think one always kind of doubts your how can I say, your endurance. And I think being on the alternative side of things in the rock and blues and world, endurance is a very big part of it. If you don't have endurance, then you're not going to make it. And I think I've never knew I can handle so much rejection and still go on. I think that's part of being a musician. Yeah, for me, it's interesting. Like it's something that it was never like that's what I want to do, but it's something that I thoroughly enjoyed and loved doing. And when I got older, I kind of realized this was the path. It's weird. Like I know some guys, like the minute they pick up a guitar, go, I'm going to be a rock star. For me, it was just something I enjoyed thoroughly doing, and I was just like, I'd rather do this than anything else. And then that kind of developed into this is something I got obsessed with it, and this is something I need to do. So yeah, it's you learn things about yourself, you learn endurance, you learn rejection you can handle, and you learn how to sleep in any space possible, which is also something I never thought I could do.
Yeah, and it also teaches you how to fall asleep virtually anywhere. I mean, what's the weirdest place that you've fallen asleep on or at, I guess?
The weirdest place I ever fallen asleep was in a place in Pretoria called Fontaine Caravan Park, which apparently they murdered somebody in. So like when we spoke to the locals, they're like, "No, we're sleeping there." They're like, "Are you guys crazy?" But yeah, not to divulge into too many details, but I fell asleep on the bathroom. That's the weirdest place I've ever fell asleep. Well, not on the bathroom, but like those like big communal bathrooms. They usually have these little rails on the side. You guys can sit and hang their towels and whatever. Because the tour bus was full and everybody already took all the tents, and I went out partying. So at like 4 in the morning, I was like, well, I'll just sleep here. I took my sleeping bag, and yeah, the next morning, the people were quite interested when they walked in to go to the bathroom and I was sleeping there.
Yeah.
That would be the weirdest I can think of.
I mean, I can't think that it would be the most comfortable sleep that you've ever gotten on a show or during a
No,
performance.
no, not really. That wasn't fun. I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
Not
So,
not recommended. No.
so you mentioned earlier that you were the guitarist for Zinkblad. How did you get into that?
Well, basically, in school, I started playing. I started playing bass first because guitar was lame, and then I heard the magical sounds of Steve Ray Vaughan, and my life changed in an instant. But in school, being a young guy, like what, 14, 15, I started playing, and you can't see me now, but quote unquote school bands. And I played in everything, man. We played in country bands, we played in Metallica cover bands. I mean, we did let me give you a little example here. We did the imagine going from that to more stuff like so everything in between. What's a typical high school? So I played in all kinds of bands through high school. Started in a punk band actually because that was the easiest thing to play. And I met a guy called Bert Katsia. He was in the same year in school with me. He went to Paul Rust Gymnasium in Stellenbosch. And they had like a songwriting competition at the end of matric, I remember. And one of the 20 bands I played for faded out at that point. And I hastily got something together, and my partner didn't pitch, so I played the whole contest by myself, which was very awkward. And I know that's probably why I didn't win. But he ended up winning at the middle of the night, which was hilarious because he actually organized the competition. So he won his own competition, which was
Gee.
quite funny.
Yeah.
But he actually legitimately won it. It wasn't rigged or anything. And basically, the competition prize was you could go and record, I think it was 3 songs with Jurgen von Bachmar at Sunset Studios, legendary studio in Stellenbosch. And I forced myself in there. And I was like, well, I'm your guitar player now. And that's basically how the band really started. And then a year or two later, we kind of decided we needed a bassist and a drummer. And that's pretty much the origin of the band. Yeah.
So, what genre of music do you make or do you most enjoy making?
That's a difficult one. I'm quite schizophrenic when it comes to music. Was very fortunate to grow up in a house where there was everything from Pavarotti to Jimi Hendrix. So it's weird. Like as a guitar player, obviously you like the more rocky and guitar-y stuff, but as a songwriter, you like the more soulful, slower stuff. So you kind of jump between that. But I enjoy everything, I have to say. I'm not very peculiar about a specific genre that I like to play. I mean, if you listen to the album Testify, I'd like to think that it's quite diversified in that way, that there's a bit of country, there's a bit of soul, there's a bit of blues, there's a bit of rock. But yeah, when it comes to live, we're a rock and roll band. We like turning up loud and screaming guitars and stuff like that. So that's a difficult one. I don't know. I would say it's a blend between the more soulful stuff and the heavier stuff.
I must say,
It's
with your album Testify, so that's the most recent one that you guys released, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
must say that you guys have a really good balance between all of the music and incorporating all of the genres so that it's not overpowering to what the band actually is, and that's a blues rock band.
Yeah, I always like to joke and say we're a rock and roll band with a blues addiction. Because how can I put it? Like in South Africa, especially, unfortunately, the word blues puts you in a very narrow little box, and it's a tag that in the beginning I was kind of proud to have, but now I'm kind of going like, we're not really a blues band, more a rock and roll band, because it's we don't want to be pigeonholed in a specific box really. And like I said, the blues thing comes with this kind of image of, like old Toppy sitting on a stoop playing like 12 bar, which is not quite what we do if you go listen to the album. Nothing wrong with that. No offense to any people sitting on their stoop and playing 12 bar. I do that every now and then. It's quite fun. But it's a tag that's difficult to carry. So I would say we're a rock and roll band. Yeah, we're a rock and roll band with a blues addiction. That would be my answer.
So your band consists out of three other members, and that's Carl, CJ, and Rian. So are they in
Yes.
any other bands, or are they only
Well,
in Violent Free Peace with you?
the lineup has changed a little bit now for the new year. CJ unfortunately has had to leave us. He's unfortunately too busy with other projects, but he's got a great instrumental band called The Scare Quotes, which is fantastic. Go check them out. Rian had played for Delta Blue for years, which was a brilliant local blues band. Um, he also does his own music. He does instrumental stuff. So go check out his albums, Rian Divanates Music, I think .com. And then our newest member, Mr. Divan Pater, plays for a band called Moon Badger. And he plays for The Bakers is the other band. So he plays for two bands. So yeah, I think it's a very good thing to play with as many people as you can, because I never went to study music or anything like that. So the school of hard knocks I went to was session work and uh, doing live gigs with as many people as possible. You get thrown in the deep end quite quickly and you got to sink or swim. I mean, I remember I did a session with a guy and he was like, "Can you chicken pick?" Which is a kind of that type of, that type of stuff. And I had no clue how to do it whatsoever. And but being needing the money and needing the job, I was like, "Nah, sure, I know exactly how to do that." And literally went onto YouTube and I was like, chicken picking tutorial, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is impossible," because it's a very specific technique you have to use. And I kind of figured out a way to do it on my own, which is kind of cool because it kind of, I mean, okay, you guys can't see what I do, but it sounds like I'm doing the right technique, but I'm actually not doing the right technique at all. But it's that kind of thing where you find your way, you find your own way to do things and you find your own groove, and I think you evolve more into your own style if you play with multiple people. So I'm always a big proponent of, go out and play for as many people as possible. And again, we're taking a very long route, but yeah, they do play for a couple of other people. And the band very much consists of, I would say, about 80% of the time we're a trio. So it's just me, Carl, and Divan now. And then we do 4-piece gigs when Rian comes in on the keyboards. And then we have what we call the extravaganza gigs, which is like an 8-piece band. Make
Oh
like more
wow.
backup vocals, more guitar. So that we do very rarely. We haven't unfortunately been able to bring it up to Joburg yet. But when things normalize, hopefully we can. And Carl also plays for a band called Back Pocket. Forgot about that. They're a great band, very, very cool band. And yeah, so I'm very open for the guys that play with me, like to go and experiment and, you know, be
Absolutely.
musical whores.
I mean, you have to support the people that are in a band with you, because at the end of the day, and I've heard so many bands say that it feels like you're in a marriage with like three other people, because at the end of the day, you spend so much time with these people and you have to understand them. If the drummer's in a bad mood, the bassist has to see it and they have to like sort their shit out before anything else goes wrong or whatever it is. So, I mean, what does it feel like playing with eight people and like being in such a big marriage, I guess?
Well, if I was a Mormon, I'd be happy. Oh wait, they can't do that anymore. Yeah, it's like being in a marriage without the sex. That's the bad joke that always goes around, but it's very true.
Right.
No, like for me, you know, it's I've gone through quite a lot of lineup changes throughout the years, as life happens and people have to do separate things or go their separate way. And the main thing I can say is, especially if you're recruiting new people or looking at new band members, it is exactly what you just said. Where musical ability, I would say, is about 70% of of the decision. The rest is this a cool guy? Do your vibes kind of align? Can you see yourself spending 14 hours in a car with this person and not trying to kill him?
Yeah.
But for me, as kind of like the musical director, the big band is amazing. I mean, if we had the budget to do that for every show, that would just be the ultimate. Because it's really like, I mean, I'll put it like this: when we do the trio, we approach the songs differently. When you do the four piece, we approach the songs differently. But when you do the full band with the eight piece, it really is the closest that you'll probably get to the album as possible. And that's always awesome hearing that, or when you get that full picture. But then again, the other stuff is a lot of fun too, because you get to kind of play around. And I mean, when we play live, we change our set, not specifically the songs, but we have fun with it. We play around within the songs, we stretch stuff, we put little stops here, put a break there. Because I always feel like live and studio are two different things, and they have to be two different things. For me, it's very cool if a band can replicate the album live, but it's also a bit boring if they do that at every show the same. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's
So
like
we
going
try to
to
keep
the
that
fridge.
spice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like going to the fridge and expecting something different every time you open the door. So I think it's really great that you guys choose to change it up. And it also keeps the people that constantly come to the shows, because I mean, every band has their groupies, and I think it keeps it interesting for them as well. Instead of after like the 12th show that they've seen, it's like, okay, well, this is getting a bit repetitive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for them and for us as well. I mean, with Zinkblad, it was a different thing because we achieved quite a bit of success at the end. And how can I say, there was a couple of songs that we knew we had to play. It was not up to the band anymore. Like, you have to play those songs, otherwise, people will not be happy.
Yeah,
And with a three piece, luckily, we're at a stage now where we can still really pretty much do whatever we want. And that keeps it always interesting for us. So I would say it's like a 50-50. It's also to keep the crowd entertained and to make it a bit different for them and for us. Because I mean, you do get bored of playing the same songs over and over
exactly.
again. So it's always fun to, and sometimes it just happens as well. You would just be live and it would just happen. It's not really, music is not as planned as people think. Put it like that. It's not
So
as thought out as people think.
exactly. And you mentioned earlier that you are a session musician. So you have worked on a couple of Valiant Sword songs, and the one that you worked on was Horizontal, which has
Yes.
won an award. And how does that make you feel to know that you have joined in on a band, or you did session music, sorry, for
Hmm.
that song, which won an award?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, with Valiant, it was cool because we got to go on the road, and I was in his live band for quite a while as well. And he's such a great guy, and is such an amazing songwriter that for me, I think the greatest thing about session work is just it's always amazing seeing songwriters work and kind of going, "Ooh, that's cool." Taking a little bit here, take a little bit there. But it's always great if a song does well and you had a part to play in it. So it's a very cool feeling. It's like a
So with
hopefully we
that,
can do it
so
again.
sorry to have interrupted you again.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask that a lot of people think that you make a lot of money. Well, not you specifically, but musicians make a lot of money
Yeah.
doing session musician, not assuming your
Yes.
current status.
Yeah.
But how does a musician stay active in the industry as well as making money to keep up their living and their lifestyle?
Well, at the moment, it's extremely difficult. I mean, for me, most years it was doing studio work, which you get paid they call it a session rate. So that's like I think it's for 2 hours, you have a certain rate, and if you go above that rate again, and then it was mostly gigs, playing gigs, and that was mostly how I made my living. And due to the current dreaded C word we are in, that kind of has fallen away. So for me, it's really been a challenge the last year. Um, I haven't quite figured out how to stay afloat yet, but it's more trying to expand your skills. I've recently got very much into video editing. I'm going to try and get more into getting like music work for ads and stuff like that. Trying to connect with some producers because I think the way forward, that's pretty much what you're going to look at. Gigs, I don't think really are going to come back till at least 2022 if we're lucky, probably 2023. So for me, I think the active thing to do is to, like I said, learn new skills, get a different skill set, which can still be in within music. Like I love shooting and then editing little videos, and for me, it's also about I'm trying to focus on this year is a lot of collabs, like get online content, try and building up your online presence, because I think that's that's where people are going to see you now. It's not going to be, unfortunately, in the flesh anymore. It's going to be live streams and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. So I think there still is definitely a way forward. We're all still just trying to figure it out.
Exactly. And I mean, live streaming in South Africa has never been such a great thing because we don't have the internet capabilities to do something like this. And I know that you have done quite a lot of live streams since lockdown has started. And how would you say the feedback was for your live shows?
It's interesting for me because I think a lot of musicians that I spoke through went through this. The market got flooded very quickly, as one can imagine, because suddenly the trend that I kind of saw was that the first of everything did relatively well. But the market was super flooded, and I think to my detriment, I may have done it too much, because I do think people obviously as well get a bit bored because it's there's no interaction. It's something you just need to sit and watch. So what we try to do with the last one we did, the Christmas one, is we kind of try to do a way more informal vibe, and I think that for me is the way forward. That it feels more like we're sitting talking now, or somebody's just like on a couch in your jam room and they can have a peek. Where I saw a lot of the big productions looked amazing, and I mean also the big stage and lights and everything, and that was really cool. But I do think in the beginning, or how can I put this? I think the problem was that we all tried to put on a show where uh, you can never really match the feeling of actually being there in person. So I feel the more personal vibe is the way forward. But yeah, the trend for me, and I think a lot of guys, was the first of everything did well. So the solo stream did well, the first band stream did well. We did a duo one, me and Rian, that actually didn't do too badly. So that went well. And then as that kind of went on, like I said, it got saturated very quickly. And I think, unfortunately, oh, not unfortunately, but a lot of people were doing it. So it's like, wait, which one do you watch?
Exactly. And what would you say? So, obviously, given the current status that South Africa is in, what do you think the future for South African musicians look like?
Well, it's difficult to say. I can only speak of my side, which is, like I said, very much more the alternative kind of under the mainstream type of thing. But the future looks pretty bleak. But no, that sounds too bleak. No, it's still going to be a tough time, and it's going to be a while, I think, before it recovers. But I do think at some point it will recover. I mean, venues are going to close, but hopefully somebody will buy it and either keep it, or new ones will open eventually. But I do think online is going to be way more prominent, and I do think it's a mental shift now where we're going to need to be way more visible online than we were before. Because, like I said before, you can still kind of rely on gigs to bring yourself through and to kind of spread your music. But with online, it's also comes a whole new set of challenges where we were more in South Africa. Now, if you go online, you're competing with the rest of the world, which is daunting because there's a lot of people in the world and there's a lot of amazing bands and artists out there. But I think, the way forward, I feel, is to kind of find your audience. Don't try and get the whole audience, find your audience, find your church, find your people that connect with you and your music, and just kind of build that relationship. So I think we just got to hang in there, keep on writing, keep on trying, keep on experimenting. Always say, like, right now we're in the stage where we just throw everything against the kitchen wall and you see what sticks. We
Yeah.
just gotta go on with that. And yeah, if you're a music, if the music has you, and like it has me, then stopping is just not an option. So
Exactly. So obviously, we've all been there. We've all been, or we all heard the line, "Can you do it for the experience?" How does that make you feel when you know that you are great, you know that you deserve the money, and they're like, "Can you do it for the experience?"
well, it's not even about deserving the money. What I always find funny about that statement is I always say, like, when you get a plumber to your house and you get him to fix the kitchen sink, do you go afterwards, "That was great. It was a good, I hope it was a good experience for you." You know, like we are human beings. We need to pay rent. We need to put petrol in our cars. We need to buy strings. I mean, a packet of for acoustic gig, my string cost is about $1,000. And I haven't
Jeez.
gone to the gig. I haven't put up a PA. I haven't put up a mic. I haven't had a beer. I haven't had a burger. So, you know, it's like there's a minimum wage, but there's not a minimum wage for musicians. I
Exactly.
can to put it in perspective. And we, like I said, we're human beings. We like to live. It's fun to live. It's fun to be able to pay your rent at the end of the month. But yeah, I mean that line I've heard it a lot of times. But I do understand the idea that you got to pay your dues, and I do agree with that to an extent. But there's a difference between paying your dues and in Afrikaans they got a great word om mense uit te byt.
Yeah,
There's a difference. Yeah, I can't quite
exactly.
think of the English word now, but yeah.
So, how does royalties work in your opinion? Because I know, because I'm pretty much clipped up about how royalties work, but it's always a fine line between a session musician and then the real time musician, if we can call it like that. So, how
Yes.
does royalties work for a session musician?
Well, so how royalties work in general, when I write a song, if I write the chords and the basically the melody and the words, which is the chords. So say I can give you a good example. So say we're in a band situation and I give you the chords D, C, and G, and the other guitar player goes, I still own the rights to that song. What he does doesn't matter because I wrote the chords and I wrote the melody. That's how songwriting pretty much works. That's why a lot of bands you would see, we did it in Zunkblad as well. Um, they share the credits equally. You will always see like 3 or 4 names because that's pretty much how it works. So how session fees work is you do get needle time from the South African Music Royalty Association, and you can negotiate a deal sometimes with the artist. Excuse me. If you really are integral to the song, if you are the songwriter, you get the royalties. It doesn't matter what artist sings or performs the song, but you usually just get a session fee, and you sometimes get a percentage of the album. So you get a like small part of the profit. But obviously, albums aren't really a thing anymore. Everything is streamed now, and streaming royalties. I do see that in America they're trying to fight it, and streaming royalties are pathetic. Just to put it very bluntly, I mean, there's something like what is the Spotify subscription now? 200 rand, 100 rand, 60 rand. I can't even remember.
Yeah, it all depends whether it's like a family deal or whatever, but I almost think that is like 180 Rand. Not too sure, but
So I
yeah.
think to put it into perspective, to make that 180 rand out of Spotify, you're gonna need at least, yeah, I'd say about between 25 to 40,000 streams.
What?
Then you make that 180 back. I mean, there's a reason that if somebody like Taylor Swift is going, listen, this is unfair, and she gets like 10 million streams, you know, there's something wrong with the system. So
Exactly.
you know, it's not the same as record or radio royalties. So that's what they're trying to fight. And I firmly believe in that fight that it should be like radio play. You get your fair share, which is also not massively a lot, but it's definitely better. But for session, it's like I said, you mostly get paid by the producer or the record label for the session you do. You can get needle time. You just need to log it with Sombra. And then if you can negotiate a good deal, you do sometimes get a bit of the profit. And then songwriting is a different game. Like I said, you can, yeah, if you're the songwriter, it doesn't matter who puts what lick or what phrase or what break in the song, you pretty much get the money. That's why there's guys sitting in mansions in California laughing all the way to the bank because they sat in their home and they wrote the song. So
Exactly. I mean, I never knew that it was like that much streams to enable to for you to get the royalties, because obviously
yeah,
it does make
it's
sense, because who actually sits there and sees, okay, well, Basson Laubscher, his song played 20,000 times this week.
no.
Write down, that's what he gets. Okay, this person did that. Like, I feel like that system is so broken because it feels like it's not fair in a sense.
No, because remember with Spotify and all those things, you get like literally 0.0000001 of a cent. You get a fraction of a cent every time a song plays. Now you got to imagine that it needs to add up. So you're gonna need a lot of streams.
Yeah.
How Sombra usually gather their royalties is TV and radio, and technically venues as well need to send them playlists monthly about who they played at what time, and then they obviously take those lists and calculate it up, and then you get your royalties. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I was also in the beginning, I was like, yeah, woo, rock and roll, and then you kind of realize, oh wait, I have to register and do this and do that. I mean, with
Exactly.
Sombra, it was funny. I registered, and I don't even. I mean, I think it takes like a year or something before you actually can become a member. And
Jeez.
they just never tell you are one. I remember just one day sitting at home and I got money in my bank account. I was like, what? Ah, cool. I guess I'm a member now. So yeah, it's doing this full time. I'm still not great with it. Is you're being an independent artist like I am, you really have to have your eye on every ball. You got to be there with the songwriting. I mean, you are the label. You got to check all those things. You got to check the royalties. I got to have a fight with Sombra anyway next week. Change my bank details, so I need to get them to notify them about that. But it has gotten a lot easier. They've actually gotten online as well now, so it is way easier to register than when we started. We still physically had to get the forms, print them out, sit and write everything out, and mail it. So it's
Jeez.
getting better.
Yeah. And I think the biggest problem with that is because obviously now that South Africa has seen, like, we have internet, we should probably use it. I think a lot of the systems are backed up as well. It's like when you want to go
Yes.
book your license, okay, you can come in like 3 months, 4 months, maybe. Just check with
Yeah.
us when you get here.
Or you go like 6 o'clock in the morning and they only take like 30 people. That
Right?
happens as well. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's unfortunately a mixture of backlog and a little bit of corruption as South Africa. It's our
Exactly.
specialty. We do corruption like nobody else can.
Yeah. So, all serious questions aside, so we're coming to the part of the podcast where it's not that serious questions and it's all weird and wonderful and whatever. So, the very first question that I have for you is, what is the first album that you have purchased?
The first album I ever bought was Green Day Dookie. All that stuff.
Yeah.
I remember that very well. That's when I still played bass. So you can literally, I love that bass punk basses. You don't really need to do anything. So yeah, I was a punk bassist first. So that was my first album. The second one was, yeah, I was a punk and metal kid for a long time. And then I discovered, like I said, I discovered this. I think it was a vinyl. And this guy with these like pink cowboy boots and this fucked up guitar and this big cowboy hat. And there was a live Stevie Ray Vaughan album. And that's when I kind of went like, ooh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then I got into guitar, and then you kind of go back through him. You go through like Albert King, and then you go through, I always like to back that. You go like, who did he listen to? And then you go, who did he listen to? And you go back and back and back. And then you discover that your parents actually have good taste in music because you go through their record collection. Oh, I got all this cool music.
Right. So, if you had to choose one artist that you did session musician for, who would you say was your favorite?
Yo, no, it's like the desert island questions. I hate those questions. I never can answer them. Yeah.
Well, okay, let's rephrase it. If you had a time machine at your house and it could take you back to one session that you did, who would you want to end up with in studio?
Well, yo, like I said, Valiant was a great songwriter. Rainer Velvet was also a lot of fun. That was just rock and roll. Also a brilliant songwriter. But I think the guy that always like kind of blew me away was Gerald. Gerald's voice is just Gerald Clark. His voice is just unbelievable. That blues voice, man. And he always had the most interesting middle chords. It'd always be like a straight, but he always do like a not the average. Always throwing these weird chords. So yeah, it's difficult. I don't know. I can't choose. It would be between the three of those.
All right. Well, we'll choose
Yeah.
for you then. No, I'm kidding. So, if you can perform with any South African artist, I know that this is also a very broad question to ask, but okay, we'll like narrow it down, I guess. So, if you had to choose between, if I can choose my favorite South African bands, so it would be Fokke Verliesigar, Van Kou Kartel, Spoegwolf, or Die Wereld Fantasties, Wieselekkies. Who would you choose?
Well, as a project I'm currently working on that I hopefully can bear fruit at the end of the year is I've always wanted to do a show with myself, Albert Frost, and Dan Patlansky. I think that would really be very, very cool. If I can get that. Out of those bands, I remember Spoegwolf, they actually opened for us in Zinkblad years ago. There was still another name,
Jeez.
Eyster Koei or something.
What?
Battle. Yeah, I'm giving away my age now. Yeah, Van Coke, I love Franco. He's a great guy. Very, very cool dude. Yibbles, I'm a big fan of the guitar player Fred. Fred was also with us in Stellenbosch. In his previous band was called The Elder. This was years ago. They were amazing, but it was also like a university band that just didn't fizzle out in the MK days. Yeah,
Oh
I was still
man.
there with the MK kids. Yeah,
Oh, the good old days of MK.
the good old days of MK. Do miss that channel quite a bit.
Yeah, I
But
remember back in
yeah.
school when they made an announcement. It was like a week before. They're like, okay, they're coming on Wednesday. Make sure that you look appropriate. MK is coming to our school. And we freaking lost it. We absolutely lost it because it was like, what? No ways. We're going to see them. I missed that channel.
It was very cool. I was always a fan. It was also a fun thing always to do on tour when you got nothing to do. You just sit and watch MK. It
Right.
was great fun. But for me, a show with Albert and Dan would really be. That's still something I would really love to do.
Absolutely. I mean, they are really great musicians.
Absolutely. I mean, I've played with Albert quite a bit, and he's always fantastic. So much fun to play with him. I think I've only played with Dan once. That'd really be cool to do that again. It would be
Definitely.
fun.
So the second question that I think it's the third. Anyways, who's counting? What is the most trouble that you've gotten into at a show?
I've always been a good boy. I never get into trouble.
You just told us about the fact that you fell asleep in a bathroom, and now you're telling us this.
Yeah, I never do such things. I always watch other people get in trouble. No, I almost once got in a fight off a stage. We were playing our Afrikaans festival years ago in Langebaan. And we were playing with the more commercial artists like Kurt Darren and those type of guys. So obviously they were not prepared for a band whatsoever. And this was a Zinkblad. And I remember as we were setting up, because the drums and everything was there, but nobody checked it because they just used backtracks throughout the entire show. So as we got up to play, we obviously had to test everything now, and the people got a bit. Well, first of all, half the people stood up and left, which is already hilarious within itself.
Jeez.
Very organized by Afrikaans. They got up very nicely and just like, "Thank you, we're gonna go home now." And then the one guy started throwing me with ice, and he was like, "Hey, buddy, gaan oefen by die ice, man."
Jeez.
So that's probably the closest I've been to trouble on stage. I've seen some very interesting things from stage.
Yeah.
I've never really quite been in trouble. I've seen the one gig we played in, again on the West Coast, actually. I think it was Elandsbaai. There was like 3 fights happening while we were playing. It was hilarious. Just watch like, oh, there's people hitting each other over there. Ah, there's people.
Damn it.
I've seen a girl that duct taped herself on stage while we did a gig with the backhand bones. That was hilarious. Yeah, she did like a strip dance and then she duct taped herself. I was like, okay.
Yeah, this is happening.
Yeah, this is not strange at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always joke and say we got a blackmail bucket in the end of the show because we look at everybody and everybody doesn't think we're looking at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've played many nights in Bohemia bar in Stellenbosch, like a student bar. Yeah, you see some very interesting things around there. Drunk people coming up asking weird requests. You know, what's
What's
it?
the weirdest request that you've gotten?
It wasn't so much a request. So usually, like how it happens is when you start playing at these. So these venues, like I do a lot of acoustic shows as well as one need to do to stay alive. But you sometimes play at these venues where they're not really there to watch you. You're just playing there on a Sunday. They're there to have a good time and drink, and that's all good. But usually with these shows, I always ask my audience this question because I really find it interesting. Like when you're a band, generally nobody fucks with you. Like it's very rare that drunk people would like, yeah, play this song or whatever. Like people generally kind of go, there's a vibe, it's cool. But when you're one guy with an acoustic guitar, people kind of think you're like a jukebox and they're just throwing like, Jägermeister and you will play them with. And for years, this fascinated me because I never understood it. I understand it a bit better now, but I never used to understand it. So within that context, usually when you play, you get these drunk people that come up, and literally while you're playing a song, you'd be like playing, and they'd be like, just start talking to you.
What?
So what I started to do is, they would just literally start talking to you. They want, and
That's
sometimes
just
it's either a request or they just literally just want to start talking to you and go like, hey, bro, my friend also plays guitar. Like, can you play a song or whatever?
what?
And yeah. So usually you get like three types. You get the guy that, because what I do is when they do that, I immediately stop and I just look at them and I go as loudly over the mic as I can. I'm like, can I help you? Can I get you a beer or a pizza or, I stop now. This is what you wanted me to do. How can I help you? And then it's generally like three responses. They're like, the guy that wants a specific song, so he'd be like, play, what's that? Oh, nobody actually asks for that song anymore. People are too young now. Anyway, usually like a Drake or a rap song or whatever. But you get those guys, play like Blood Moon Rising or play whatever. And then you get the guy that doesn't really know what he wants, but he just wants to dance. It's like, hey man, can you play something we can dance on?
Oh my word.
Which is already funny. And then
Yeah.
you get the third one, which hurts a little bit. When they're like, hey man, can you play something lekker?
It's like I
thought I
am.
was, but okay. Yeah. So we were doing this gig in Key 4, and this is the weirdest request I ever got. So just with that, I just said, keep that in mind. So, it's playing this gig. And it's one of those gigs where you can literally see people being annoyed while they're trying to eat their fish and chips because they're like, really, I'm just trying to eat my fish and chips. Why are you playing blues music and shouting at me? And this woman starts walking up, and I'm like playing along, and I'm like, whatever, I've seen this movie a million times before. And I do the whole thing where I stop, and I'm like, can I get you like a pirate cruise around the harbor or fish and chips? What can I get for you? And she literally asked me this. She said, I'm sorry, I just want to know, when does this place turn into a dance club?
What?
That's when I just started laughing. I was like, you win. I don't know what you win, but you win. Well done. So that's the weirdest request I ever had. Yeah. Oh, and Zenkblad, we had one very strange request as well. So we had a song that was quite big on one stage. It was called Picnic op Iman. Can't even remember it now. Anyway, can't remember it now, but it was quite big at one point. And we had this guy coming up to us after the show, and he actually really did ask this to us. He was like, he wants to hire us to play that song in a room while he's in the other room getting busy with his girlfriend.
What?
I was like, what? No.
Would you
That's
ask
a
me
no.
this if your mother was standing in the room?
Yeah. No, people like
No, dude.
no, like we see the best and the worst in people. Alcohol brings out very interesting sides to everybody.
Yeah. Jeez.
But it's part of the job. It's part of the
Yeah.
job.
So the second last question that I have for you is, what is one of the biggest problems that you and the band had to overcome? And this is now referring to you as Basson
Yes.
Laubscher and the Violin Free Piece.
Well, I think a big problem for us, and I think it's still a problem, it's a difficult thing to overcome, is like I said, when you're kind of on the alternative side, and we're not even that. I mean, it's not like we're a death metal band, but radio has a very specific formula in South Africa, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in other countries as well. And it's really been the biggest challenge for us to just get anything on the radio. They just go, sorry, it's not in the formula, or it's too rock, or it's too blues, or whatever. So I think the biggest challenge for us, and it's one we're still fighting desperately for, is to gather an audience, to build out an audience, to kind of get a broader audience in South Africa. Because the way we used to do it before, like I said, was with live shows, and the kind of music we do, and that anybody that's in our field, I always joke and say it's kind of like a church. You have to convert them one by one. The guy has to come to the show and he'd be like, "Oh, this band's awesome," and then he checks you on Spotify or whatever. So I think that's a big hurdle for us, is trying to get a bigger audience. Because with a bigger audience, obviously, you can start to do more stuff. You can tour more. You can take more stuff on. So I would say that's the biggest one for us, and we're still in the process of fighting it, but we're going to keep on fighting it till we overcome it.
Exactly. So the very last question that I have for you is how, or if you can say anything to younger musicians or aspiring musicians to motivate them to stay in the industry, what would you say to them?
Get a job. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I would say that if you really want to do this, it's not all glamour. And how can I say, the reality starts peeking through very early in this job. It's a lot of hours on the road. It's sleeping in a lot of crummy little places. It's not as glamorous as you think. We all have this dream, and I still have the dream. I think you should never let go of the dream, but I think you have to make sure that you really want to do this. This is the kind of, like, you close your eyes and you focus towards that one thing, and you're gonna have to make sacrifices in your life, and it comes with, like, birthdays, Christmases, all that type of stuff, anniversaries if you have a partner. You have to realize that this has to be your thing, and this is going to take precedent over everything else. But I do think a plan B is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have gotten a plan B. But yeah, I think it's not for the faint-hearted. That's the only thing I can say. That, I mean, a good thing for me, to take it in a very different angle, is of the corona thing, is that the kind of really diehards, the people that are in this because that's what they need to do. It's like a virus in. Okay, that's not the great analogy. Sorry. Maybe not
Too
the right time
soon.
to do that one. Too soon. But it's like, music is, if it gets you, it gets you, and that's everything. And those are the people that will stick around despite the current situation, and that is, I think, a positive thing. But yeah, my advice would be, buckle down, and remember, the glamour is going to wear off very quickly. But if you
Yeah.
want to do it and it makes you happy, which it does me, I mean, I always joked, well, not joked, but my saying has always been, the moment it's not fun anymore, I will stop, because what's the point?
Exactly.
you know and I do feel, especially if you play live, like, you gotta have fun, because if it doesn't look like you're having fun, how can your audience have fun? let
Exactly.
all let all your inhibitions go and just play some rock and roll, man. Dive around on a whammy bar, it's fun. You
Exactly.
can get
And I
immense
mean,
joy
when
by
you
just
play that, who's not going to enjoy it? Right.
just mess around, man. And remember, there are no rules. That's what I say.
Yeah. I think that's the
Rules are
best
there to
thing
be
about
broken.
music. There's no rules about it.
No, there's no rules. Everybody does it their own way, and that's how you do it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge. I mean, for me, it's really been an honor talking to one of SA's greatest musicians. And it's not what I think, it's what a lot of people have said to me. And because I mean, I've told them that I'm going to interview you. They're like, what? He's like one of the greatest that South Africa has seen. I'm like, well, shit, I'm not
The
stressed for
sponsor
this
has
at
paid you
all.
well to say that. The sponsor has paid it well to say that. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's really been an honor chatting to you guys as well. I'm always up for just sharing knowledge, and I think that is also a big thing that, like, knowledge is power. Share it, speak to people, especially now. People need people to talk to.
Right, and
So
support
thank you guys so
local
much.
musicians.
But I'll play out with something.
All right.